Awesome. So this is an intro to vibe coding, mapping the AI no code tool landscape. The idea is to transform your ideas into working apps without writing a single line of code. And I want you to learn how AI powered tools are changing software development for non-programmers. You're going to hear a lot of people saying you need to learn how to code, and I strongly believe you don't need to learn how to write individual lines of code. I do believe that you need to know how software is made. I think that's a very fundamental piece here. I'm Soro. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years where I consult with small companies to startups to enterprise, and I build AI agents internally. I do AI enablement. I teach them how to use AI, and I build internal dev tooling as well. From time to time, I also do some public speaking. I hold meetups in Toronto. So if you are local, subscribe to Luma and definitely come out to some of the events. Some are more formal than others, where I'm doing things like this or just opening up space that people can come, bring their laptops, hunker down, and start working on something they never really had a chance to work on before. And I'm always around live in these events. So you can always ask me questions. What do I do outside of live streaming for you guys? I run Red Brick Labs. It's an AI enablement and automation agency where I do a lot of enablement for companies. I do strategy, road mapping, and automations internally. Who have I built for? I've built for tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, Google, AWS, enterprises, and banks like TD, RBC, automotive companies from Lamborghini to Lexus. And I've built with some of you guys who are here today, which is pretty cool to see. I run Not Robots, which is the community. The community is on Discord, where I'm sharing what I find on the internet, my thoughts, how-tos. And then I also am building notrobots.ai, which is a more formal version of this about building with AI. It's a platform where you can log in, see tutorials, how all the links will be there and whatnot. Some housekeeping. You'll have questions throughout today. I want you to scan the first QR code and post them there. This is Slido. It's a cool web app I found online, but basically you can go there, post your questions, and I will get to every single question today live here before you guys sign off. So definitely keep that open throughout the event. Just post your questions there. The second QR code is for joining the free Discord. It started off as my personal brain dump. I was saving everything I find as bookmarks on Chrome, which we all know we never look at it. So I started moving them to Notion. Over time, it was also, I found it to be useless because from saving so many things on Notion and I'm the only person reading it, I think it's more useful if I can share it with the world. Discord is a nice free platform for doing this. So yeah, it's free. Jump in. What is vibe coding? Vibe coding was popularized around February by an AI expert, Andrej Karpathy. He used it to describe a style of building software. It started off as a joke, but it basically is describing what you want and let the AI handle everything. This is taking into account where Andre saw AI in February and now it's September. A lot has happened since, right? Before AI, like the amount of tech improvements that have happened since Feb, it's probably years and years worth. The idea here is to focus on your idea and not on the code itself. Vibe coding, you can forget that code even exists, or at least that's the goal. I want you to focus on your idea, and that is AI translating your vision to working software. Now, I'm making it sound very simple, but we'll go more into detail. You're not able to just say what your app idea is in a sentence and have software build it. Like that's not how it works. It's really important to learn how software is built, and that's what I'm doing here today. Once you get these fundamentals down, you'll be able to enter the era of rapid prototyping, the approach of quick prototyping and iterative building is how many forward deployed teams and engineers deliver solutions like myself. Through this, you'll be able to ship value faster, whether you're doing this internally at the company you're working at, running a company, and you want to make this top down for employees, or you're working on side projects and you really want to figure out how to get your side project off the ground. So the AI development landscape, it's essentially in two categories. And the two categories are one, no code AI app builders. Now, AI app builders are no code AI app builders are essentially online chat apps where they really do a good job of not showing you the code. And I'll jump to that in a second. But the second piece is a little bit more streamlined, or sorry, less streamlined, which would be AI powered coding assistants. These would be like Cursor, Windsurf, Visual Studio Code. And this one has a little bit more transparency into the actual code that AI is building for you. I'll go into both of these now. So the no code AI app builders, there's tons of them out there. And there's new ones being made every 24, 48 hours. I'm going to go over a couple of the main ones that exist, but it doesn't matter which one you're using. Because once you understand how application and software is built, you should be able to start with one, jump into another. Most of these are being run by the same LLMs in the back. So being able to convey your thoughts over to the LLM, whether you're using V0, Lovable, it doesn't matter. You should be able to get the same output. Some of the ones that I like to use, V0 by Vercel. It's web-based. I'll have links for all of these at the end. Some of these links even come with free credits. So V0, they're by Vercel. It's really good with front-end stuff. Lovable and Bolt, also web-based. They do really, really good with, turning a prompt into a really nice landing page. Replit is another one. V0 has a chat interface. Kind of looks like the one on the right here, but the idea here is that you describe your app, upload design, screenshot a website, and work your way to building that website. It's a visual first design, meaning it shows you what you're building and it has code in the background. Quite remarkable. I implore everybody to try it. It has generous free daily credits. For the longest time, I didn't pay them. I pay them now because I like their product, but I genuinely believe you don't need to pay them to get started. They also handle hosting, which I'll jump into a minute, but like why hosting is important. But you're able to deploy this to the web immediately. As time progresses, all these companies are realizing that the money is in hosting as well, and so they're all slowly coming up with hosting packages. So the other one is Lovable. I'm sure you guys have been plastered with Lovable ads. They are going hard on marketing now. Thanks, Mike, for posting the Slido link. If my video is cut off for you guys, are you able to full screen it? Let me know if that does the job. Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate that. That is something good to know for the future to make sure that everybody is going full screen. Justin, nice to see you as well. Very cool. It's like a reunion of some of my old stomping grounds. Lovable is also a good platform. They've scaled up quite a bit, but same thing. Plan first, and they guide you through the process. It's really nice. They do both front end and back end, and you can integrate with stuff like GitHub, which I'll get to in a moment. I'll also get into what I mean by front end and back end in a moment. It's a really good first pass at getting your idea out there, building a landing page, or even a web resume. Is a spin-off of one of their previous companies, kind of like Vercel and V0, where they were hosting first. So they had a bunch of code because they've been hosting other projects for many, many years. And using this, they're able to train their own system of how to build a website. And so that's how they began. But over time, AI and LLMs became so good that it almost doesn't matter anymore. Use the core models behind it, like GPT-5 and Sonnet 4 and Opus 4.1, which you don't really need to select anymore on these apps. They do such a great job at piecing all the pieces of the puzzle together. I want to bring up Replit because unlike the other guys, Replit actually has a dedicated app that you could use on your phone. They have their website, which is amazing. And they also have a dedicated app on the computer. Why I really like using it is it's an all-in-one solution. Think about they really tackle all the different pieces of the puzzle, the four pillars of making an app. They actually have it all built in, which is amazing. It's good that you don't need to think about it, and they think about all these things for you. People have launched full-scale applications with Replit. The bad part is, like any of these apps, if you put all your eggs in one basket, the issue there is when you want to move off of it or you believe that costs are getting too much, they're just a middleman between you and the real hosting company, that's where stuff gets dicey. And that's a later problem, but I want to make sure that you're aware of it. Replit, to begin with, is an amazing all-in-one solution. The next one is AI-powered coding assistance. So we're talking Cursor, Windsurf, Claude Code as well, even though it's terminal-based. I will go through a Windsurf demo with you guys, or an IDE-based demo. The idea here is that it doesn't matter what IDE you use, because you should still understand the fundamentals of talking to these LLMs on how to build your app and all the different moving pieces. Cursor and Windsurf are forks of VS Code. VS Code is an IDE from Microsoft, completely free from Microsoft. It was made many, many years ago. And forking essentially means that you can take the code, copy and paste it, and start editing it and make it your own application. And that's essentially what Windsurf and Cursor did. And they've both gone to be really successful companies because of that. But they took a AI first approach. They're both really good. They're the leaders in what they do. And I recommend trying it. They both have some free models inside the application. At the end of this as well, I do have a free Windsurf 1 month that Windsurf has generously given the Not Robots community, and you can use that code to sign up. The point here is that it doesn't matter what you use. They're both really awesome. The next one is Claude Code. I'm not going to go through Claude Code today, but go through that in another session because it deserves its own session. I'm a daily Claude Code user. I think right now I have about 6 to 8 Claude Codes running, just because that's how it runs my life. It's amazing. But it's a little scary up front because it's in the terminal. And usually when things are in the terminal, people get a little scared because they believe that you need to learn how to code, but it's all natural language at the end of the day. Learning English is the most useful skill set. Post your questions here. I really hope the Slido link works. If it doesn't, the link was posted in the comments on Meets, and you can grab it from there, as well as this QR for the Discord community. All right, let's get into planning your app with AI. When you're planning your app, I want you to do this with AI. Do it either in ChatGPT, Claude.ai, or even Gemini. If you're asking questions on Slido, please put your name so I can address you. Don't feel ashamed. There's no stupid questions. Planning your app with AI, you could think of them as your pair programmer or your pair product manager. When you're building an app, you're putting on your product manager hat to understand all the different pieces required. You first start off with defining the purpose of your app. What's the point of it? What's it doing? Is it a to-do app? A note taker app? There's just so many things you could obviously do. And so the point is that you should define what it's for and who the ideal user is. Start with one person or one type of person. You'll get the most success if that one person is you, because then nobody can tell you how to make that app in terms of features, because you're the ideal user. You want to build it for you. That's also what will set it apart from the rest of the apps that exist, is your spin on it. Number one. The next is outline the different pages it might have. You don't need to make it complete. Just try to get the core stuff out there. What's most important? You could even start with one core feature. I think that's the best way to do it in the beginning so that you can get off the ground and see how this whole process looks like. Then you can add features on top. The third one is like build your MVP, your minimal viable product first. Focus on the core features. Incrementally add the nice to haves. So if you're going to build a note taker, maybe build the part where an AI agent is looking at the transcript and just summarizing it. Something that you would paste in the chat GPT. But the point is, start off with something really simple so you know it works, and then you can solve that way. As you build from here, test and iterate. Now, this is the planning phase. If I were to go into the build phase, there's only one more thing I would add in here. And that's kind of like, it's exact same thing that your teacher, when you're in school, would yell at you for. When you were typing up your project online and they're like on Microsoft Word, you're writing your essay, they're like, save consistently. The equivalent of Control or Apple S, the equivalent in this world is sending to Git or uploading to GitHub. And like I said, I'm going to go into where and how to save in a moment. So the 4 core pillars of app development. And when I say app, it also means website and literally anything that has technology behind it. The first piece is the front end, the client side. It's the user interface, like what you see. When you go to apple.com or microsoft.com, what do you see? That's the user interface. How you're navigating throughout this, that's the user experience. So these things all fall within the front end. Now, the technologies behind it, there's tons of things out there, but some of the more popular ones are like HTML, which everybody's heard of, JavaScript, like React, Angular. And this list, honestly, It's huge. It can go on and on. You don't need to learn each one. The point is that you need to know they exist because when you come down to troubleshooting or in the future, when you get more knowledgeable about what you want to build, you can prompt with AI like, what's the best technology to build it with? I like to do everything on React. React has a bunch of sub frameworks that are really good. Personal preference, honestly, but the point is just to understand it exists. The backend, server side. This is what's happening in the back that you don't see. So where is your data being processed? How it's being handled? How are people logging in? What's the security? Where is your login being stored? How are all these password breaches happening? That's where all the backend stuff happens. A lot of these applications that I showed you, like Replit, for example, handle a lot of that. They're the middleman of backend. Lovable, Bolt, they are very good now with integrating with backend companies. I'll open up those apps in a second and show you some of the companies that I use and how to connect them. How are we for time? 12:29. Database. So, database is where things are actually stored. Inside, when you log into let's say Gmail, like the emails that you see, that is part of a database that exists somewhere. If you log into your fitness app and it's tracking your weight, it's tracking your workouts, like where is it being stored? How is it being stored? What language or the type of database it's being stored on? That's all database stuff. There are tons of database companies out there. Some are more advanced than others, some are more streamlined. I'll get into those and also which ones you should start playing with immediately for building your app. Everything I'm showing you from the database side will be free, which is awesome. Backend stuff, there are some free ones out there with and they all have limitations, but it just depends on what you want to build upfront. And then infrastructure. So hosting of the database, the back end, the front end, where is this actually what's wrapping it all together? And realistically, there's three main companies in the entire planet: Google, Amazon, Microsoft. The products are called AWS, Azure, and GCP. You don't really need to know that, but I just want you to understand that because depending on what line of work you're in and you want to host your app somewhere, it might be important to understand where or who it's hosted with because you might need to launch a server from them in that country you're in. So, for example, if you're working on a healthcare app in Canada, you can't host your data in the US. So, you need to open up your own Azure instance in Canada. This is also applicable in the US and probably other countries as well. There are times when you'll see some of your favorite websites stop working, and maybe because Amazon or AWS had an outage. They say about 2/3 of the entire internet go through AWS, which is absolutely wild. Personally, I strongly believe there should be more companies, but this is the world we live in. There's three main ones. Now, data storage is authentication. I'm going to separate data storage for a minute here and talk about actual authentication because it's important when you're building your app. Obviously, you need authentication in your app. When you go somewhere, you log in with Google or you use your username and password. Like that's everyone knows that. But how do you do it? Where do you do it? So there's a bunch of companies out there that handle this for you. The biggest company in the world that exists for this is Google. So Google does this through their service called Firebase, and Firebase is amazing. It's free. You can do the whole single sign-on, sign in with Google and whatnot. Over time, companies have taken that and wrapped it into their product to make it more streamlined. Outside of Gmail, anything Google produces is sometimes really convoluted and hard to understand. There are companies like Supabase, which I highly recommend for as a database company and a login, like an authentication company. They have a very generous free plan for this. If you're using Lovable, Bolt, and V0, in the settings, you'll see a connect to Supabase option. That's how prolific they are now. All of the companies have included them in the free tiers. Supabase has a really generous free tier. Up to 50,000 users are free, which that's incredible. And so when you're talking about database, once again, Supabase is really good for the free tier. All of these companies integrate with Supabase, but behind the curtain of Supabase, what kind of database are they using? Because I'm not just telling you Supabase because I work there or something. I don't get a single dollar from them. They don't even know I exist. The point is, what they're using is called Postgres SQL. And that is something that not just Supabase does, many other companies do as well. And so when I'm saying use Supabase, you could use any of the other companies. If you don't like that company, you should be able to pick up your database and move it to somebody else without any hiccups. I don't want you to be vendor locked. I want you to be able to pick up your stuff and just move it. And you can only do that if you understand all the moving pieces. Dinesh, you have a question about security and data protection with local legislation. Post that to Slido and I will get to it. Security tip, ask the AI to include mock data to help you with testing and demoing your app. Don't use real data because in case you've missed some security outlines, always use mock data first when you're demoing. Now, we talked about GitHub very shortly. This is where you store your code, where you should store your code after you get it off your computer. It's completely free. Microsoft bought them a long time ago, and it's very generous with how much you get for free. The idea is that you can think of them as the Google Drive or Dropbox of the internet. Anybody building code, like 99% of them, are storing their code on GitHub. It's private. I can't see the code you upload, so think of it as a very private box for you. However, you might have heard the term open source. A lot of open source code is stored on GitHub where you can go and grab it, and I'll show you that in a second. How to grab it, bring it down to your computer, and edit and work with it. I want to talk about the saving part, but also how to use GitHub. I implore you to go to github.com, click on Explore, and see all the things being uploaded just today. It's remarkable. The first time I went on GitHub, not knowing how to write individual lines of code, I was able to download stuff. Being able to see what GitHub has to offer, what people are making, and being able to download and play with it freely at no cost, that is a aha moment for a lot of you, like it was for me, because you unlock this whole huge piece of the internet that you've never really interacted with before. I'll teach you how to go on GitHub, find something, download it, and run it. And I'm going to do that with the open source project that I have. So once again, questions, please go to Slido on the left, scan that QR code. I'll get to all the questions today. On the right is the QR code for Not Robots. And that's an indie hacking community. Everybody there is building with AI. It's sort of my brain dump. I'm there every single day. You can ping me there and I will always reply. So the idea here is stop focusing on tools, focus on building. And us brings up a good point. By default, GitHub repos are public. Make sure to change it to private. At least that's what I've experienced. In your settings, set that. For me, everything I upload, 100% make sure it's not public. So stop focusing on tools, focus on building. I went through the 4 pillars of what it takes to build an application. You should always be thinking of those in separate terms, no matter what application you're using. Write it out. Maybe even break your app down into those 4 pieces. The point is that you keep it modular when you're building, understand what goes into those 4 pieces, and I promise you, you will save yourself a world of headache. Now, that's it for my slides. And I think we're good for time demoing. So before that, I'm actually just going to quickly open up GitHub. This is what GitHub looks like for anybody who hasn't been to GitHub. I'm just going to go to the Explore page, show you what's here. And is an automation tool. They've made some updates to their app 27 minutes ago. You can actually click N8N and download N8N from here. Like this is the code. You don't need to worry about how to do it. Now I'm going to show you guys how to grab something when you find something. This is a mock project I built a while ago. Essentially a resume for Batman. It's open source. Anybody can grab it. It's public. And I'll teach you how to pull it off. So I'm going to click the code button up here. And under HTTP, there's a nice little URL here. I'm just going to click copy. The app I'm using for today's demo is Windsurf. So this is what Windsurf looks like when you first open it. I'm making it really big, so hopefully everybody can see the text. Give me some thumbs up if you can see the text. I can't see all of you, but I see a few of you. Yeah, I see emojis more. Perfect. Cool. So guys, this is Windsurf. It's a IDE, and it has an agent called Cascade. If you click Cascade, it should pop up, catching a wave. Maybe I need to restart it. Let's try this again. I just restarted it. It's caught a wave. Sweet. So this is what it looks like. You have a chat on the left here. I'm gonna make this bigger. You have your chat on the left where you can, it's kind of like ChatGPT at the bottom. You can actually just select whichever model you want to use. Claude, GPT-5, Gemini. They have their own model called SWE1, which is Software Engineer 1. It's free to use, no credits, unlimited. I like to use Sonnet for this demo. I copied that link you saw me copy earlier, and I'm going to say, can you download this and make a local copy, please? And I'm going to put that link here. There's actually a much shorter Git command for this, but I want to do everything in natural language so that you can see everything in between. It's downloading that project because it's open source. It doesn't need a login. And it's creating a localized copy. The summary is that it's been done. Here it is. You can see it on the right. I'm also going to tell it to install all the dependencies. This means that every project might be using packages that you might not have installed on your computer or on the project. So with the project, it needs to download packages. I'm just going to install the dependencies. I know I have them already, but I'm just going to do them anyways. And it's just running an npm install, meaning that it's looking at this package.json link, which is legit. Every single project on GitHub has this file. You don't need to open it, but you could check out what's there. It has the list of things it needs to get. The agent's going through. It's been done. There seems to be an audit fix it's doing, so it's running through a quick audit. Now, how do you run this thing? You can actually just tell the agent, please run this. I'm not going to do that. I want to show you guys the actual way to do it because save your credits and save your headache. What I just clicked here is a button that opens up Terminal. Terminal is the command line interface that your computer has. I'm actually going to run the project here, but I need to get in the right folder just in case. Type in npm run dev. I got errors because I'm not in the right folder. I'm just going to go into Batman CV. I know that here because on the right, you can see Batman is inside Learn to Build. Cool. Now it's running. To proof that it's running locally on my computer, it says HTTP localhost instead of a website. So I'm just going to click this. And here it is. Bruce Wayne, Cape crime fighter seeking day job, Gotham City. Hire the Batman. Let's fight crime together. Here are his bat skills and abilities. Intimidation tactics, 98%. Pretty good. You can click on past experiences. It's a whole bunch of stuff here. First fight nights on patrol. Containing the rogues. Saving Gotham's airwaves. There's a bunch of cards here, as you can see, like innovation, strategy, combat. And they're just text on cards. I made this a while ago. What I want to talk to you about now is how can I make changes to this outside of just like make this button blue and change the text here. Like that's too easy. I want to talk to you quickly about MCPs. And MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's the API layer that LLMs can talk to each other with. One of the best MCP use cases I love to toy with, I love creating content, I love creating images and videos. You guys may have heard of Midjourney, Nano Banana, or Stable Diffusion, places to make AI images. One of the websites that exists online where a lot of these guys go to, a lot of these other companies tap into for hardware and resources is called Replicate. So like replicate.com. So you can sign up here. They give you some free credits. And then on their website, they have every single image model. It's incredible. There's a little bit of a setup in the beginning, but they got an MCP. And with the MCP, what I've done is I've connected it in Windsurf. Here, you can see I have some MCPs. After this presentation, I can get, if you guys have questions of like what are my favorite MCPs for some of you who are already a little bit more familiar with it, but I want to go into this part of it. I have Replicate enabled here. What I'm going to do is give it a prompt, a very easy, quick prompt saying, okay, using Replicate MCP, generate images for all of the cards. I wanted to give it a little bit of a nudge. I let it know of a specific image model that I like, the Black Forest Labs Flux 1.1, for the skills page, because the website looks super flat. So I'm not telling it what image to do, what the prompts are for making my AI images. I'm just saying, go do it on this page and go use this thing. Whenever you do a new request, you should start a new chat up here. I did not do that, so that's on me. Just like ChatGPT, you start new chats when you're doing things. It's going to take about a minute or two because it's going to go search for it. It's going to build around it. While it's doing that, I want to also show you about another MCP. So this is more about opening your mind of like what MCPs are capable of when you're using chat interfaces like this. In MCP, I enabled one called Slack. My chat agent here has access to my Slack on a certain channel. I'm just going to make this smaller again. Once again, if you have any questions, please put them in the channel. I'll make this a little bit bigger as well. So in Slack, I have a channel called Here's Some Feedback. Now, I'm going to put the hat on of a very disgruntled client. You just gave me this website and I don't like it. The website sucks. I hate yellow buttons. Please make orange. In a new chat, once this is done, I'm going to prompt. Let's click continue. Just making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. Perfect. All the images have been successfully generated. Now I need to create a public folder for the images and update the skills section to include them. Okay, it's making a folder. I just prompted Slack for a change. I will also tell this to reflect those changes. While this is still going, I have some time here. When you're building with MCPs, if you use Claude.ai, so the ChatGPT competitor, they actually have now a MCP field that you can actually do this on the web. You don't need to download like Windsurf or Cursor. You can just do this on Claude. And it's called Connector. They just renamed it. And I believe ChatGPT just introduced this as well, or they're rolling it out to certain accounts. Check that out. It's called Connector as well. But the idea here is that there's like thousands of MCPs out there. There's just so many. But one I really like is Perplexity. Perplexity is good for using AI search. It uses AI to search the web on whatever topic you're talking about. It's really good to include it into the LLM to give it a little bit more context. Another one is Playwright. And Playwright's more for building an app. I'll get to Playwright in a second. I just really want to show you guys this demo. So it says it's done. Let's take a look. The thing about live demos is that we never know if they actually work. Wow. Nice. These are actually pretty sweet images. It took the context of my website and it came up with the prompts for each of these. Gadget proficiency, it showcases a couple of Batman's gadgets. Brooding silently shows Batman lurking in the shadows. I also like Flux because it doesn't give a shit about copyright. And so, yeah, withstanding paper cuts. There's Batman with a lot of paper cuts. It's pretty awesome that you can do this. Now use the Slack MCP to see what changes were requested and please execute the changes. Execute the changes. Nice. Now let it do that. So back to this. What is Playwright? Playwright's a really cool MCP that opens up a browser inside your coding terminals, for example, what you're looking at. It looks at your website or your app from the front end perspective. It'll create a mouse, go around, click around, and do whatever you tell it to do. So it simulates a human doing this. That way, when it comes down to testing, you don't need to do it. And there's so much time you can save from testing because filling out forms, seeing if data is being done, or somebody reports a bug to you, you should automate that bug or the finding of that bug. You can start a workflow like, okay, that bug happens when you do A, B, C. Get the AI to tell Playwright to do A, B, C, and see if that bug happens. And so Playwright's amazing for that. It's free, completely free. It's designed by Microsoft. Same website, localhost 3000. You can see everything is orange. Investigate, analyze, plan. And it just built on top of the website. And so this is really cool for working in teams, right? Like I just did this with the free Slack MCP, and there's so much you can do in this world now that I'm showing you. I'm doing all of this without coding. I didn't write a single piece of code other than, I mean, you could say I wrote npm run dev, but really that's not a lot. Any other cool MCPs that I recommend? Those are the main ones. The last piece I would love to recommend is Context 7, but that one's a little more advanced. And what that does is it gives the LLM a little bit more knowledge into what you're trying to build. And so, for example, if I'm going to do, I mentioned Google Firebase as a database provider, or sorry, an authentication provider. What Context 7 will do is it'll give your LLM, your agent, the ability to understand how is Firebase made. And so if I type in Firebase on Context 7, it inputs the documents into the LLM, and then you can build like that. This is being updated frequently. This is updated 2 weeks ago. It's awesome. Completely free. Highly implore you guys to check it out. Now, I cruise through this. We have 5 minutes left, which is awesome. There's a lot of questions I want to get to, and I want to make sure that I don't skip out on any questions. So, before I get into the questions, the Slido questions. Let's get to them. From Mirage, or Miraj. Sorry for butchering it. If you had to navigate job hunt in 2025, what tools would you use? For example, how would you build your resume and cater to specific roles? Oh man, I love this question because I'm only in this situation because I saw the writing on the wall 2.5 years ago that finding jobs is going to be impossible. That was in the ChatGPT era. The idea here is that content is cheap now, right? You can use AI to build anything. How do you really get good roles? How do you do this? It depends on what job you're trying to get. You need to stand out no matter what the job is. Let's say it's something tech-based. If it's UX, UI, app builder, app developer, maybe it's in the marketing side, you need to stand out in order to navigate the job hunt. The resume is becoming less important, in my opinion. It's more about what you're building around you and around your resume. If you're in the UX, UI world, build designs. Publish them to the internet for free. Twitter, LinkedIn are two of the biggest platforms out there where people who are the ones that would hire you, they're there. So get out there. As a product manager, it's almost the same thing here, but a little bit more advanced. I firmly believe there are some PMs here today. As a PM, you will be required to not only present features, handle backlogs and everything, but you need to also be able to build a prototype. There's zero reason for you not to be able to build a prototype. The applications are there. There are CEOs of tech companies that have said now, like Shopify is a great example, that if there's a hiring freeze, you have to prove that AI can't do the job of somebody you're trying to hire. AI can. As well as, it might have been Shopify, but there were a couple of others that mentioned that PMs should be able to prototype. These apps are getting easier. The whole point of you being here today is so that you could do it. It's not just PMs, it's people who are not PMs as well. They're going to be prototyping as well. Build your own hi-fi designs too. Yes. God, I'm so terrible at designs. I'll barter my services for somebody that can teach me design. Designing is very eye-catching, right? It's really important for marketing. UX Pilot is an AI tool you should check out. I will check that out. Hopefully that answered the first one. You mentioned that you don't need to know how to code, only how software is made. What's the difference between the two? I think I went really deep into that one for the last hour. The idea here is that if you know how software is made and you actually do code, then say you just do everything I just did in the demo without coding. I think that's the biggest piece. If I were to create each image and upload them manually to the cards versus one-shotting it, I think that's the best example of knowing how software is made. I knew where the images were generated. I knew it's an MCP and I knew where it's going to go. As an analogy, you should know how a car moves. You don't need to know how to manufacture every component of the car. As a non-developer, do you believe it's possible to fully vibe code software that goes beyond basic tools? Anything special that should be considered? Yes, I do believe it's possible, and I've seen it happen in real time. There are people out there that have designed beautiful software from essentially vibe coding. They're not one-shotting their code. They spent a lot of time troubleshooting, going through the weeds, and smashing their head against walls. That's the art of debugging, fixing bugs. But anything special that should be considered, I think if you focus on those 4 pillars that I mentioned earlier, you will set yourself apart from everybody else because that's the most important piece. Each of those can be its own week-long lesson or month-long lesson. But that's where your research begins. What are the most common use cases where you've used AI? Building prototypes, fully functioning app, automation? Yeah, so my professional background is I was a project manager like 10, 15 years ago in the tech world, but I've always been very tech focused. So I moved over to product management, learning and communicating how software is built versus actually building the software. And I've had some wonderful devs back then who some of them are here today, as well as my past managers. The idea is that it's more about learning how the software is built. Common use cases where I've used AI about building automation workflows. My most used AI use case and automation is transcripts. So every call I do, like the one today, there's a transcript. That transcript gets saved automatically to a Google Drive. Now, what happens with that transcript? Usually, with all these other note takers that exist, it's a black box. You just ask them for a summary and they give you a summary. You don't control the prompts. I like having control. I like being modular. So I have automation that goes through my transcript. There's multiple agents that go through the transcript, but each agent has a persona. So there's a prompt with it. So say one's for marketing, one is for a meeting note taker that is a meeting note taker in a certain industry, one is a product owner assigning roles to people. And the list goes on for exactly what you require from your transcripts. The idea here is that I have multiple agents that go through my transcripts and comb through for the information that I need. That gets sent to me, a channel on Slack and on Telegram as well. I don't use Telegram for it anymore, but Slack is mainly where I see it. That's essentially what I use AI for the most. And there's a bunch of other use cases too. Like I use Claude Code for video editing. I made a video about that a few months ago. It's amazing what you can do with AI now. When you implement automations, AI agents, is it mainly full code implementations? When would you use code versus no code? I always deliver code, but I build it as no code. That doesn't mean I'm going from prompting to something that works and just delivering it. I'm very diligent. Over the years, you gain the skill set, but it's about making sure the code is not fluffy. There's a lot of extra pieces in, first pass at making code that shouldn't be there. One of my first Replit builds for a client, the end-to-end product was 30,000 lines and it worked. It's great. Now, 30,000 lines for what it did is too much. I built it with Replit because, I can build on my phone, I continue on my computer. Over time, I redid it. I started from scratch because now I knew what all the components were, and I was able to build it in less than 4,000 lines. The AI got smarter and better. The idea here is that you should stay modular and understand the different pieces so that in your code, there's no holes. Without understanding all the different pieces, you can get in real trouble. What do I use to do all my client work? I strictly use AI coding the development terminals like Windsurf, Cursor, or Claude Code. I never do anything client related on the web-based ones. It's a great place to showcase a quick prototype, but in no way should you be doing stuff that's going to sit on enterprise. How do you ensure security and data protection in line with the local legislation? What certification is needed to demonstrate the right security protocols are in place? This is a question that also came up yesterday, something similar. Let's say you're working on a healthcare app in Ontario. How do you ensure security and data protection? Well, number one, you got to make sure you're looking up all the stuff that's required. I honestly forget what it's called in Canada, but the HIPAA equivalent of healthcare in Ontario. I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure someone will mention it. And so what I'd really like to do is pull out the entire legislation and throw it into an agent and have a sub agent completely trained on that stuff. So let me actually, I didn't do this yesterday, but why not do it today? In your coding terminals, if you go slash, let's see, where did they move it to? I think you can also trigger in a workflow. So what I like to do is create an agent on the HIPAA compliant equivalent of Ontario, train it on that, and now that's my dedicated compliance agent. Then I'll trigger a workflow to call on that agent as I'm building out my application. It's double checking not just the code, but also the compliance factor of it. That's something I would love for you guys to always do, not just in the legislation part, but anything required as a check in what you're building is building additional agents that have that context of what's needed. What certifications needed to demonstrate the right security? Certifications are just based on your region and the industry you're in. So HIPAA, if you're in the EU, like GDPR, then there's SOC 2. So SOC 2 is something that now SOC 2 is something that you need to look at if you need to be compliant. But if you use the right provider, so let's go to Supabase, which I talked about quite a bit here. If I scroll down, you can see all the companies that use them, like 1Password, Chatbase. Here it is. We protect your data. They are SOC 2 certified. They're also HIPAA compliant. When you're using providers to hold data, make sure they have the certifications you need. Find out what certifications are needed. David posted a link for free 12 months of Perplexity. I sent the same link to a couple friends. Perplexity has a good option right now where if you connect your PayPal account, they'll give you 12 months for free, and then make sure you disconnect your PayPal account. It works. Anonymous, I hope I answered that question, Mr. Data Governance. Can you quickly run through how to set up MCPs? Yes, I will. It's a little bit longer. It's a little bit drier. I will get back to it at the end of this. In case people, there's 28 people here still, I want to make sure that I get through everything. Ricky, is a good way to think about MCPs enabling the ability to connect to other tools, agents, models, data repos in your code base? Yes, and others. That's the most important part. Also others, because everybody has an MCP now. I actually have an agent that scrapes all the MCPs on the internet every single day at 8 a.m. and posts them here. Okay, here they are. And you can, like, it's unlimited. For example, I saw a good one. Blender. Some of you guys know what Blender is. Some of you guys here are Blender pros. Blender is something that you can go and create 3D models for on your computer. With MCPs, you can get your coding terminal to create that 3D model for you in Blender without designing it in Blender, which is incredible to me. Then you can get an MCP for a 3D printer and have it printed all in one workflow. It's crazy where we are this year. I can't imagine where we're going to be next year. I highly implore you to check out MCPs. Be careful of security, so don't give up too much information. This Blender MCP is not made by Blender. It's made by a single developer, Ahuja, Sid. I know 13,000 people have started, which means at least 13,000 people have used it and liked it. So that's good. MCPs is amazing. There's just so much you can do in that world. I got a couple of app ideas. One's a SaaS, one's an iOS app. Do you have recommendations on an app builder? I'd love to talk to you about what the SaaS is, but depending how deep you want to go, maybe start with Replit first, just to make sure your app works. You don't need to launch it on Replit, maybe even get your first 50 users on Replit, but get it working on Replit first. I think that's the fastest, easiest way. Get the prototype working. You can click around and you validated the idea. You validated some of the features. By the time you validated some features, you're going to know how good your features are or how to get right to the features. And you're going to know what to prompt right away. And then you can go build it another AI builder like, Cursor and whatnot to get your app out there. The idea is more important. Refining your idea first. And Replit does iOS as well. Do you think not having programming background will be an issue in debugging larger projects? AI gets confused the longer I work with it. Short answer, no. Why AI is getting confused is because context windows. You should be really, really cognizant of context windows. So how many tokens is in your context window? That's really important because after a certain amount of context, it starts forgetting things. And that's super, super important. It is increasing across, we started off at like 8,000 tokens. GPT-5 does somewhere between 200 and 800,000 tokens, depending what model or what paid tier you have. There's 1 million tokens with Google Gemini. And right now there's a stealth model on OpenRouter, which no one knows who it is. It's going to be one of the big guys because they always release it for free there first. But there's a stealth model that has 2 million tokens as context. That's a lot. And so they're getting bigger. Now, when AI gets confused and you are within the context window, you should be in the habit of being able to switch models. Some of these applications like Lovable and Bolt, you can't switch from Claude or Sonnet to GPT-5 or to Gemini. You're just stuck with what they're giving you. But realistically, when you're using stuff like Windsurf and Cursor, the real AI development tools, you can just, with a drop-down, swap models. I want you to get in the practice of that because Opus from Claude is amazing. Great, you got somewhere. Now it has a bug. You can't figure it out. You spent an hour with this bug. You can just tag in Gemini from Google or GPT-5 from OpenAI as like another persona, and it will come and look at it from another perspective. And way more often than not, it will figure it out. Being able to play these different models against each other, you will get to your end destination, I promise. How often have you scrapped a project? All the time. Absolutely all the time. And I'm going to say don't avoid it because that's you getting your reps in. Your first app you make, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to have like 30,000 lines when it should be 3,000. But don't worry on it being 3,000. Just build that 30,000 line project, get it working, and you're like, okay, I got here. It's only 30,000 lines because you just tried all these other features that you liked, maybe you didn't like. You made it blue, then you made it purple. You moved the button from the left to the right. Okay, you went through all this stuff, and that's why it's sitting at 30,000 lines. But now you know what it should look like. Start again. When you start again, it'll work faster, it'll be more efficient. Your hosting costs will probably be a lot less. It'll be much more streamlined. I want you to get in the process of scrapping a project. Have you seen vibe coding used in DevOps? I do it all the time. A lot of my work right now is DevOps. If you're, DevOps with AWS, the Azure, GCP like Google, or some of the other hosting companies, they all have CLIs, which is a command line interface, which means you can download that CLI to your coding terminal and get that LLM to talk to that company's CLI. And it's incredible. It's incredible what it could do. And so I use it for Azure all the time. Follow-up question. You said you came from product management. Do you now have a decent knowledge of coding now? I have a better knowledge of all the moving pieces. I wouldn't say I have decent knowledge of, like, if AI were to be, if all the AI servers were gone and then we're back to square zero. No, I don't have decent knowledge of coding. I don't plan on having decent knowledge of coding without AI because that era is severely declining. And so knowing how software is made. Back to the car analogy that Anas mentioned, I drive a lot. I've been driving for 25 years. Do I know how to make a car from scratch? No. I know it needs an alternator, a battery, and it takes oil, but I can't build you a car. What are some common problem areas businesses are struggling with that someone with AI skills can provide disproportionate value? No company is using AI the way they should yet. And that's because the people in charge of most of these companies, they're a little bit older, they're busier than you and I. They can't jump on a live stream at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And they don't care. They're already getting paid. If you're getting paid a healthy salary, why should you care? Right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. That department is the most at risk of being automated, being replaced. And it's identifying them and having your channel into them because we're still very early in terms of disruption. And it's about getting people to trust you to listen to what you have to say. And that's a lot of you putting yourself out there, marketing, any contacts you have, any networking you could do. But that is where it starts. Picking a domain that you're already an expert in, whether it's automotive, whether it's healthcare, double down on the domain that you're already a professional in because that will give you a little bit more authority in that department. I think that's really underserved. Cool. That's all the questions. I'm going to get into MCP stuff, but Ricky, hold on tight. I want everybody to jump off of mute and let me know what you think so far. That's the conclusion of everything I had planned for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hi, what do you think? How could I have done better? Let me know.
Hey man, I need to drop, but this has been a really good intro.
Awesome. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it. What's the curriculum for the cohort? Great question. If you can ping me after this, I can send you the curriculum. I have it in a document and I haven't posted it, but it should be at not robots AI under course. A lot of it's here. The high level curriculum is here, but it's going into much deeper detail. Mainly because it's my first cohort and I want to make sure every single person is absolutely satisfied. After the first session, if you're not satisfied, it's full refund. No questions asked. Just ping me and we'll sort it out.
It's a lot to digest, but an amazing session. You mentioned that the slides would be shared. Is that going to come via email?
I have all your emails through.
Okay.
It'll be a Luma blast after this with a link to the deck.
Thanks again.
Yeah, I made sure to go as deep as possible given the time. I want to make sure this is not a huge sales pitch. It's just like, go and build. Don't be scared of the tools. Get out there. That's super cool. And then as well as the tools, it'll be sent in the Luma link on notrobots.ai/tools. all the tools I talked about. You can sign up. All the sign up links are here. It's all the ones I've talked about and a couple more to use, but all the ones that I use are here. Awesome. Great. Thanks everybody.
Thank
If you
you.
want to stick around for seeing how to like use an MCP server, I'm going to do a quick one. It'll probably take like a couple of minutes, but otherwise, thank you. All right. Ricky, are you still here? You are. Awesome. So MCP server, quite simple. The one I did was I went to replicate MCP server. I installed this package here. I told Windsurf to install this package. I log into replicate and I get my API key. Then inside Windsurf, once it installs, you open up customizations. There's an MCP store on Windsurf. This is new. You can type in replicate. They don't have replicate here, but they have a bunch of other ones. Manage servers. You go to replicate and then click configure. In configure, there's an API key that you copy and paste. And then when you click this customization button, the light will turn green. Once the light turns green, it's there. It's basically you putting your API key in. And what this is all the stuff you're reading here, like you can see here, it's an API key. What this is just it's a JSON file that sits in your project. This one actually sits at the environment level, meaning it's active across all my projects, but you can have MCPs that are just in your project. Make sure you don't have them all enabled at the same time because you can only have 100 enabled, like 100 tools. Replicate itself is 35 tools. So it's taking up a third of my entire MCP space. You only have them enabled when you want them because you can't use a lot of them at the same time. When you're looking at MCPs through Not Robots, and you click through what MCP that you want to use, so let's just say I want to use Obsidian, which is a note taker. Usually on GitHub, when you scroll down, the configuration instructions are here. There are two ways to configure the environment with the API key. You can feed this into the LLM to help you install it. Stuff like Windsurf, you have the MCP store, which is pretty awesome. All the big boys are here. PayPal has an official MCP server, so you can do integration with the API. Roku, which is another hosting company, as well as Perplexity is here, which I've installed. So yes, look at the MCP store if you're using Windsurf.
Do you have any rules for Windsurf?
I did, and I've taken them off because the LLMs are really good now with that stuff. So my rules are more around the project. They're all project based. I create rules based on like the project. For example, I'll have design rules on my website. I have design rules that if I make a new page, it should always look like this. This is the background, this is the font, those kind of things. And you can get the LLM to make the rules for you. This is the Batman page. It's a brand new project. Can you make a design rule file for this project and store it in, I'm making this up, design.md. MD is markdown file. It's basically a .text file, but much more lightweight. I highly recommend working in markdown. It's incredible. And I'm keeping it organized by saying it, go install it in the design / folder. And so what it's going to do, it's going to look through my project, come up with a design rule, and stay there. Whenever I want to do anything design related, I'm going to make sure I tag that file, always. These are some of the things I'm going to go through next week. This is essentially how you want to think about rules. It's like you have them modular, you have them sitting in a file folder, but you make them with your project. And there's a couple of other ones too about like, okay, if I want a Next.js developer, what should they always do? There's stuff like that as well. These LLMs are so good now that you pick your language ahead of time and you build your website. It knows the language you're using. It will use that language. Rules are getting less and less important. And the creators of Cursor were on a podcast, but they're saying by the end of the year, they want to make sure that nobody has to think about rules ever again. And so I do think understanding actually how to build something is a much more powerful piece. Here, for example, this is the markdown file I created. This design system defines a visual language, components, and patterns for Batman CV project. Dark themed, superhero inspired design philosophy. These are the colors I'm using. These are the neutral colors, etc. This is the font, the weights, the spacing system. So it goes through and it creates this for you. Just make sure you stay organized by putting it in a folder so you don't get confused. I actually make another folder. I'll just rename this. Call it human folder. So that way I know that I made this stuff. It's for me. It's not part of the project. And I'll move design in here. So now I know this is the human folder. Anything extra that I want, I put it here. And I think that's a good way of keeping organized. This is your folder. You don't want AI to mess around with it.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'm flattered. I'm honored that some of you guys still stuck around. Thank you so much. Any more questions? Like, feel free to ping me in my Discord. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys learned a lot. Thanks, everyone.